Guys, I know the YouTube algorithm is gonna hate me for uploading this video. That's why I'm trying to hide from it here. But anyways, I'd appreciate it if you can drop a massive like for this video because there's a ton of value and a ton of insight you're about to hear. So I was looking at some indicators that I track on a regular basis, and I came across something today that's quite spooky, to be honest. And I wanted to share with you guys because I think we're in for a possible rocky December. Now, I want to be completely clear. This video is not meant in any way to instill fear, panic, and FUD. None of that stuff here on this channel, guys. This is just to provide you some facts and make sure that you're ready and you're informed when it comes to these things in the stock market. So guys, in this video, we're going to cover three main things, and there are timestamps in the description down below as per your request. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a troubling indicator that I noticed. This is pretty much what sparked this video here. Secondly, what is my prediction for the stock market? We're going to talk about that. And finally, what can you do right now to prepare for this? Now, if you have even a penny invested in the stock market, this video is for you and you gotta pay close attention to it. So to kick us off first, let's talk about a troubling indicator that I noticed. So guys, I track a few indicators out there in the market for good reason, because they typically indicate what's going to happen in the future for the most part. And while I don't use them to short-term trade or day trade or anything like that, it does help me with my capital allocation, which I think is very important. When I see certain things happening in the market, I'll either deploy more cash or I'll raise more cash in my accounts. And that's just the way that I've done it for many, many years. And it's been working out really well for me thus far. Now you have your usual indicators here like the PE, but guys, this is a skewed metric because in 2020, we've had a really weird year for stocks. Companies are hurt, earnings are down, but everyone recognizes this and this is a short-term problem. So I mean the PE ratio, which uses the earnings, not that accurate. Then you also have the Shiller PE, which is kind of like the big brother of the regular PE. But the same story applies here. It's still skewed because it still relies on earnings to calculate the data and plot the graph. How about price of sales? This is something we've been using quite a bit on the channel for high growth stocks specifically. And we can see this indicator is pushing new highs. But again, as the name implies, it's a price to sales. Sales, aka revenue. And this year we know revenue has been rocked for many companies. But again, most investors realize it's a short-term thing. The point I'm trying to get across is that we all know that most metrics are skewed here in 2020. So using that data, I don't think that's the best of decisions here for any investor. Now there is this other indicator that I use quite often, which is kind of independent of these specific price to sales, to earnings, to whatever ratios. And I found it to be pretty accurate in the past, and I'm going to share it with you guys today. So this is the greed to fear indicator, and this shows us right now we have a greed level of 88 in the market, which signifies extreme greed, and this is extremely concerning. But if you think about it and you see what's going on in the market, it makes perfect sense. Just look around, browse YouTube videos, look for any stock. Most of them have been going up massively in the last couple of months. And most people brand new to the market, people experienced in the market, people who have never made profitable trades before are making money hand over fist. And everyone thinks they're the smartest, most intelligent investor of all time, gambling on all of these stocks, and so far it's panned out really well. And it's kind of human nature. The more money you make, the more you think this thing, hey, it's pretty easy, I can do more. You go bigger for the next trade, you put more money in, you go all in, you go on margin. That's kind of where I think we're at right now for the market in general. And I'm kind of fortunate because of the YouTube channel, I get to see a ton of comments, and I've seen some common trends over the last few weeks on some of my videos where people are just so euphoric, valuations just don't matter anymore to them. And that concerns me, and I'm hoping that if you're watching this video, that you actually take what I'm about to say into consideration. If you look at this graph, it shows us the fear and greed plotted since 2018. And like clockwork, guys, when we hit levels close to 80 on this index, the market turns and sees a fairly sharp correction, usually resulting in a violent move downwards. This has happened in early 2018, late 2018, mid 2019, and then in early 2020. But the most recent time here in March, it was actually at nearly a 100 on the index. Today, we're getting close to that. We're at 88, but we've only been this greedy one time before in the last 2 years, and well, we all know how that ended. So like I said, this is not to instill fear. Absolutely not. So like I said, this is not to instill any fear in you guys. I don't want you guys to be fearful of the stock market, but I do want you to be smart about your investments, and we'll talk about that in a second. But just remember that most people lose money most of the time in the stock market. And so far, we've just seen people make money day after day, week after week. But sooner or later, the market will have its way. Just be ready for that. Hey, if it was this easy to make money in the stock market, we'd all be millionaires. So just keep that in mind. The market has a way of kind of sucking you in, thinking everything's perfect, nothing can go wrong, and then bam! You're hit with like a reality check. Stocks are down massive, red day after red day, panic sets in, but the smart investors, they take advantage of this. So now let's talk about number 2 here. What are my predictions for the market? So guys, this is a complete speculation, prediction out there. I wouldn't put any money on this because no one really knows what's going to happen in the future, but here are my 2 cents. I think that we're in for a pretty rocky December, kind of going into 2021. In fact, in my VIP Discord here, this is exactly what I told my members the other day, and I warned them, just be ready, be prepared, because you never know what's going to happen when the markets are irrational like this. We want to protect our portfolios from downside, and we also want to benefit from a possible crash. I think the market is going to start seeing some volatility once again sometime soon. And I think when that happens, that's when we're probably going to see some real fear come back into the market. Until then, we could be smooth sailing. We could be just moving up week after week like we have. And hey, average Joe who just started investing last week thinks he's the next Warren Buffett. So here's just a snippet. Best Buy actually released their earnings and they were fairly negative with this statement, saying that the outlook is unclear. And this is when we're heading into the strongest season, strongest time of year for most of these retail type stocks. So this was definitely concerning. So just be a little cautious, start being a little more defensive. That's kind of what I'm doing. Not financial advice, but hey, I'm just speaking to you guys like friends. Now here's the thing, look at the S&P 500 today. We're not necessarily going to crash down and have a big massive crash like we did in March. I think that's very unlikely. But I do think we see a nice sharp correction, maybe down to the 3,200 level, come down, test that level, and depending on sentiment down there, we may either bounce back up in some pretty quick time, or we go a bit lower, find support, and then recover. Regardless, guys, they're just predictions. Anything can really happen. These are just the things that I think are most likely to happen. And just remember, I'm a long-term bull. I think whether the market corrects or not, long-term stocks are going to be moving up much, much higher. So we just use these opportunities to buy more stocks. That kind of rolls us into our next segment here. What can you do right now with your stocks and the stock market? I think it's the perfect time to start evaluating your portfolio. Sit down, look at all your positions, look at your allocation, and decide, hey, does this company make sense to hold? Does this company make sense? Do I see a future for this company? Where can I see this company going in the next 5 to 10 years? Does this company look overvalued? Should I be selling the stock? Do I believe in this company? These are all questions you need to be asking yourself consistently if you want to be successful in the markets. When you are going through your list, or if there are any companies that you're like, I'm not 100% sold on this, consider cutting that position. There's nothing worse than having a stock that you don't believe in go down 20, 30, 50%, and then you look at that and you're like, I wish I sold. I'm down on my position. I'm going to wait for it to recover now, yada, yada, yada. And that's typically, unfortunately, how a lot of investors think, and that results in a lot of lost opportunity over time. Hey, I'm victim to this too, guys. Not gonna lie here. I hold Wells Fargo, and that is by far one of the positions I want to cut as soon as I can. I probably will be doing that at some point, but it just goes to show you, not every stock is going to be a winner. So I'm going to share something with you. I actually did recently sell out of a stock that I've held for a little while, and the reason is because the fundamentals on that company are just not improving the way I thought they would be. The outlook does just not look bright. I've kind of lost confidence and conviction in the company, and I figured the best thing to do would be to cut that position and use that capital for bigger and better things. I'm right now sitting in cash, but I may actually deploy that into a better business that can see much more upside over time. It's perfectly fine to take a loss on a position if you feel that there's a better opportunity for that money. It's just something psychological. Investors just don't like to realize losses and sell at a loss. But guys, the quicker you realize, hey, if I just take this, 5-10% loss, put the money into this stock, I could easily make up that 5 or 10% in no time at all, because that's a much better business to have my money in. I'm a strong believer that in any market condition, highs, lows, bull, bear, sideways, kangaroo, donkey, doesn't matter. There's always going to be opportunities, and if you're a stock picker, you got to be looking for them. You got to value businesses, you got to find undervalued companies and just take advantage of those cheap prices. So that being said, even right now, I think there's still a bunch of stocks that are still cheap. A lot of the stocks got beaten down heavily in the last few months and haven't fully recovered. I think there's some good opportunities still there. However, many stocks are way overvalued, way past any sort of price I could have ever seen for those companies. And those are stocks that, hey, it may make sense to take a profit and just kind of move on. So that's kind of an approach you can take, you know, cut some positions, or what you could do also is just continue buying. If you see that there's good value, deploy more cash. What I'm going to be doing is actually just reducing the amount of capital I allocate to buys, just so I can raise my cash buffer a bit more. It's a bit lower than I'd like it to be. So I'd want to have a nicer buffer, especially going into December 2021. For a possible correction, if that happens, my cash position is going to drop and money is going to flood back in. That's just how I do it. That's just how I see it. And that's just what I wanted to share with you guys. General rule of thumb, guys, I hold around 20% in ideal situations. Like I said, right now it's a bit lower than what I want it to be. Sometimes it can go up as high as 30%. That's what I had before the crash back in March, and I deployed a ton of capital back then. It's paid off really well since then. And I'm hoping that we see something similar like that again in the future, because market crashes are buying opportunities. You should not be afraid of them, and you should always be taking advantage of them. But hey, who knows? Maybe everything I've said is just completely wrong. The market just keeps chugging higher. Remember, like I said, long term, I'm still bullish. Short term, I'm seeing some indicators that concern me. That greed indicator is a big one that I watch, and having it at 88, that's high, and I think a correction or a cool down of some sort is probably going to happen in the very near future. Anyways, guys, let me know what you're going to be doing here. You're going to buy more stocks, sell your stocks, hold. Love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. But either way, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.